Welcome to the Hard Money Show, where we talk about real estate, home loans, and media. It is a good day when we can get Duke Vang on the line today. He's bringing up some very controversial stuff on his Instagram. I saw it. I'm really excited to talk about it. Thanks, man, for being here today. How you doing?
Yeah, hey, what's up, dude? Thank you for having me, bro. I really appreciate it, man.
Hey, so I wanted to clarify. Is your last name Vanguard?
No, it's Vang.
Vang.
It's just yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I
Vang
was
is something
looking.
I came up with.
I was looking through your stuff and I'm like, okay, so you're on Team Vanguard, is that right?
No, I own that. I own Team Vanguard.
So you're a broker then?
No, I'm not a broker. I'm a realtor. I'm a real estate agent.
Okay.
I just operate like a broker.
Got it. And who are you guys brokered under?
We're under Cheetah Max.
Oh, I've never heard of them. Are they a national organization or what's their deal?
They're in California. They're in all over California. They're more kind of like they're not a physical office, but we have a lot of support from them. So we decided to stay with them.
All right, that's awesome. I have to give you compliments on, you guys can't see his shirt, but it says Vang Bros on it. So I don't know if that's a play on something, but I like it. It's a funny shirt. So what we typically like to do is we like to give people a little bit of insight into who you are. Why did you get into real estate? What's your kind of driving purpose and mission? So if you want to dive in, man, let us know, why did you get into real estate? I did see, if you go onto his Instagram, and it'll link you to a couple other things. But I think through your Facebook, somebody did an article on you that's pretty in depth about kind of your experience. So if you do want to read about that, I would definitely check that out. But, we're open to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah, dude. Getting into real estate wasn't really a thing that I kind of like grew up with, right? So before I got to real estate, I was working at a casino, slaving for money. Right, so I call it slaving for money because if you're not making your own money, you're slaving for someone else. So I got tired of being in that industry of having to kiss ass, customer service, whatever. Right. So after being in there for like 9 to 8 months, I was just like, I can't take this shit anymore. So I'm gonna get the fuck out of here and I'm gonna do something different. And I started reading about real estate by accident because I remember the landlord kept coming to my sister's house. My brother-in-law, my sister would always pay them. So I was like, hey. So one time he came over and I was there and I had to give him the check. I was like, hey, like, what does it take to become like a like what you're doing, right? Because you're collecting people's money. You're not
right.
They're slaving for jobs, right? So he told me a little bit about it. I didn't really understood it, but then I took that into consideration and I started reading more about real estate and I started taking courses because I didn't want to get sued, whatever. And there's this internship that came upon, and I joined the internship program. And then they were talking about how to sell real estate as a realtor, and they showed me a check that it was like a $50,000 check. And from there on out, I was like, dude, this is it, bro. Like this is where I got to be.
So I was reading. So you actually did some of your initial coursing, or maybe all of your education, at a junior college.
Yes, that is correct. So I took it at a CRC here in Sacramento. And, I took a whole entire year because I didn't know that you were supposed to take 3 courses. I just took 2 courses just for the heck of it. And after joining, being in 2 courses, the second semester, I took on the internship and another course, which was like the principal or something.
Sure.
And, after that, I got my license shortly after that. I didn't get my license literally after I took a whole year and then I got my license.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've had a couple people on who have got their education through the university, which I never knew that was an option. And it's interesting because I think it's Berkeley that you can actually get your PhD in real estate. And so I didn't really know. I just always thought like, oh, real estate's one of those things where you just get like credentialed or certified or whatever it is, right? And so it's always interesting to me people who went through that, because for me, I really like to learn in that sort of atmosphere. I like being in the classroom. I like having a teacher and working and having kind of like a textbook and things like that. And I'm sure you've experienced this, a lot of the online platforms for real estate or loan officers or even kind of anything in this field, they're terrible, right? I mean, they're just like, hey, here's 12,000 pages of information, and here's a couple of videos and modules. Good luck memorizing all of this, right? So I think it's super cool that you went that way. Do you feel like that really helped you out going through kind of that education process?
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, like you get a personal I would say teacher or something, right? So you get to talk to them like individually, so
Hmm.
you're able to ask questions right there instead of waiting for an email or waiting for a phone call or whatever, right? So I think when you learning, the difference between nowadays learning versus back then is that back then they can ask the questions right there in front of the teacher. Nowadays you have to, I don't know, do it through Zoom or whatever it is.
Hmm.
You wait for an email to learn from whatever you're supposed to be learning from. So that makes it a little bit more difficult because you're taking more time out of your days to wait for that answer when you could just get the answer right there in front of you.
Right. How many people was like a normal college class? You have like 30, at least 30 kids in there, or what was the deal
Yeah,
with that?
it was pretty normal. I think just to be exact, we had like about like 20 to 30, like just to be exact.
I think that's honestly, I think that's way better because I talk to, new realtors, especially when we're bringing people on our team, or people that are looking to join the team. And I tell them, like, hey, like, if you know other people that want to do this, I would recommend doing it with them because that's what I did. I had got two buddies to do it with me because it's so much information. It's really boring unless you I think the only people that would enjoy this is people that want to be lawyers, right? And it's like, well, they're probably going to want to be lawyers because that initial education is just so much law based. And then just kind of like knowing how much is in an acre and, knowing what an ingress is and just like all of this stuff that isn't, I'm not saying it's not applicable to the real estate industry because obviously it is. You need to know the laws. You need to know kind of what's going on, but it doesn't teach you how to do the job. But I think the one huge benefit you would have to doing it in the classroom is if everybody follows through, or even if 10% of the people follow through in your classroom with getting a license, well, now you have people that you know in the industry already, right? You can have people that you can learn with and things like that they did follow through, which I think would be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, yeah, and the funny part too is out of all of the people in the classrooms,
Mm,
there was probably maybe only 3 or 4 of us that actually pursue real estate. The rest was just there
mm.
as just to learn about real estate.
So yeah, probably right about 10%, right, of the
Yeah,
people that fall through.
yeah, yeah.
That's interesting. So you're in this class, you do the education, and then you get an internship while you're still finishing up your stuff. Who'd you get the internship and what did that entail?
So the community college here in Sacramento, they were hosting an internship. It was their second year trying it out,
Mm,
and they were just asking for see if anybody wanted to learn, and they were giving out like four credential. I think it was like 4 credential or something
mm.
like that. And I was like, hey, if I join this, I'll learn and plus I get some credentials. So I kind of needed to. So I was like, might as well just learn. Like, what's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah, no, I think that's a super cool way. So you're at the junior college. Is this like your first? So obviously, like you went to high school. Was this your first time like going into the university to like do these courses, or had you got a degree and went back? What was that kind of situation for you?
Oh man, like I'm a dropout, dude. Like I went to college. I went
Mm,
to Sac State,
mm-hmm.
and not knowing what major I was able to get into, and just not knowing what I was doing.
Right.
I dropped out of college, and I didn't do anything. So that's why I pursued the casino route,
Mm,
and that to me, I was like, it's not even enough money, and I don't even like being here. So then I had to I when I started taking the courses, I I quit my job just to go to school to
mm-hmm.
learn how to do real estate. So I was like completely, like $0. I was just like, you know what? I have like my last check was like $700. I'm just gonna use this check to live off of that time. I don't even know how I did it during that time
Mm-hmm.
too. Living off of $700 for that whole entire 6 months was pretty complicated, right? But when how I always see it is that if you really want something done, you will really find a way to make it work. If you don't really want it done, then you're just gonna find a whole bunch of excuses just to make some BS excuse just so you felt better about yourselves.
Right. I mean, I think the old adage, right, that 10% of realtors do 90% of the work, is it holds. I mean, it's not like 100% true, but I think the general idea in any field where people are successful, highly successful, right? I mean, there's always going to be people that fill the seats, but people that are highly successful, they have extreme follow through, right? They have good focus And they have really, and I think you don't see this a lot. You don't even really hear this word a lot anymore, which is grit, right? They're able to work through immensely difficult situations and come out at the end as a winner, which I think you could say if you lived off $600 in America for 6 months is probably a good description of what you did, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was just basically eating top ramen every day, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean
that's
it's a scary place to be, and I've been there too. It's funny. My wife and I were just talking about what we like to spend our money on, right? I mean, I have a couple hobbies that are relatively expensive, but outside of that, I don't really spend money on anything except for food, right? And so we were talking about that. She's like, "You'd rather buy food than buy anything else." And I was like, "Well, here's the deal, right? When I was in college and younger, there was many times where I legitimately did not have food to eat, right? And I was like, try going without something that's a necessity. And then I think something happens in your brain where you're like, this is kind of an important thing to me, right? So it's just funny we're talking about that. So you do the internship, and then you're saying it took you another year after that to get your license?
Yeah, like after the internship, I got my what do you call it? I got my transcript to take my exam. I I I applied for the examination and I paid for all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I wasn't even sure if I wanted to do real estate. So I took literally a whole entire year off. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? I'm gonna go do something else. So I started working again. I started doing all these other stuff. And then shortly after that, not really sure, but a year after that, I was like, you know what? This is BS. Like, I really need to make this shit work.
So
So,
did you go back to the casino, and how old were you at this time?
I was like, I believe I was like 25, 25, 26.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I didn't go back to the casino. I started working again. I was working. You get paid however as fast as you could finish the job, but it wasn't like a lot of money, right? I mean, it was that time it was like maybe $20 an hour because I was able to do things fast. I moved pretty fast, so
Mm-hmm.
I was able to run the scanner fast. So then I got paid fast. I finished the job in less than an hour, and I got paid with $20 an hour. But it wasn't like I got a lot of hours,
Mm.
and it was a lot of work.
And who were you working for?
It was this company. I forgot the name of the company, but it was like where you would go into like a grocery store and you start scanning the products, like the end of the aisle products.
Yeah, that's funny. I have a sister-in-law who did a similar job, right? She goes to grocery stores or whatever. I assume so. My wife is a data scientist, and she does like high-end analytics for grocery stores. And so we think it's a similar connection where they scan pricing on there and maybe placement. I'm not entirely sure. And they use that information to figure out, how to essentially compete against these other stores. I believe that's what it's for, right? So that's what
Yeah.
you were doing. That's honestly, that's kind of a tough job. I was like, man, you got to be on your feet this whole time. You got to be really quick, and you got to not get kicked out of these stores.
Yeah. It's so embarrassing when you're there and they're like, "What are you doing?" You're
Yeah.
like, I'm working."
Yeah, exactly. So you take your exam, and how did that go for you? I always try to ask people, like, I don't want to go too in depth in it, but like, how was the exam experience for you? I thought it's worded very convoluted, and I thought it was kind of difficult, even though I've taken a lot of exams in my life. I was like, this was pretty hard. I wasn't sure. Normally, I have a pretty good gauge with like, oh, I did well on that, and I didn't, and I was like, I'm not sure if I passed this.
Yeah, dude. Like I feel like these exams was meant for you to fail
Mhm.
because truthfully, dude, like these exams, when you take the exam, they have two same fucking answers. Like
Mhm.
literally two same answers, and you have no clue which one is correct. And the first time I did fail the first time.
Mhm.
So I was pretty discouraged. I was like, fuck, this I failed, like god damn it. And like $60 was a lot of fucking money that time
Right.
too. Like I was not able to lose $60. I mean, shit, it was $700, $60. That's like 10% of your money.
Right.
Yeah, so I didn't have the ability to lose that $60. So after I failed, I was like, I have to go and study it again, right? And I have to
Mhm.
study hard. And I spent 3 months studying. It was like
Mhm.
literally, I get off work, I come back home, I would just focus, study every day. And I remember I was going on Google and I was searching for some ways of how to focus better. And I remember I was saying like blueberries kind of help you focus a little. So I would come home every single day. I would eat blueberries every single day
Mm,
just because it says it's supposed to help you study better, right? So then I was doing that for 3 entire months. Like that's how dedicated I was, you know. And I apparently, luckily that time I knew a broker
mm-hmm,
that he was able to let me use the questionnaire, the practice questionnaire
mm-hmm.
exams, and it was like 1,000 questions. I remember I studied 1,000 questions. I remember 900 questions that time. The 100th question I did not do was the math part, which
Mm.
I don't understand when people put numbers and words together. I just don't understand anymore. So that part, I took that out of the picture. I studied everything else, which was 900 questions.
Mm-hmm.
And after I remember all 900 questions, I was, I think I'm ready,
Yeah.
after 3 months. So I went back, took it again, and I passed. I was, oh my God, finally got my license.
Yeah, I don't. So what year did you get your license?
2017.
Did they have the math in there at that time?
They did. They had like because it was like 150 questions. I think they had like about maybe 10 to 15 questions that was a math problem,
Mm.
which I just circled B on all of them.
Yeah, because I got my license in 20. Let's see, we're in 22, so 2018, and there was no math. They took the math out. I don't know
Oh,
if they
okay.
still have it or not, or if they
Mhm.
added it back in or whatever. But I know a lot of other people in other states, they're like, oh, California doesn't have to do math. Like it's so easy for them or whatever. But yeah, no, I remember. So I took it, my buddy took it, and then another one of us, he took it a week before us. He passed, and then we passed. And either way, like I remember um, a big poster board, like that stick on your wall, and I had like probably 10 of them on my walls. And then I studied for about 3 months as well. And I had those on the wall, and I'm like, all right, these are the key concepts that I'm still having trouble with. And then I'd be sitting there, and I'd be like, if I had something on TV or whatever, I would just look at that, and I would study it, and then I'd come back and I would study it, and I just had all this stuff around me. I'm lucky my wife didn't like lose her mind with how dirty I was making her house with all this stuff, dude. But it was crazy. So you get your license, and do you immediately join a brokerage? I know you said you were working with the broker who helped you out. Did you join his brokerage?
No, actually, I didn't join his broker.
Okay. You're
Yeah,
like,
I did. I
thanks for
did.
the
I
test.
did give him. I did give him 2 movie tickets for for giving me that exam. So I did
Okay.
thank him.
Yeah.
I sent him a letter and I called him. I thank him for letting me borrow that exam,
Hmm.
study exam. But no, I didn't join that broker. I ended up joining a smaller broker here in Sacramento. It was a broker that was he. I was with them for during the intern. I didn't train with them.
Hmm.
I didn't want to be around them during the intern because I wanted to learn about contracts and all the other stuff. So I didn't train with him, but I knew he was like the best broker or the best trainer that I was able to find.
Mm.
So right after I got my license, I remember I emailed 3 brokers. I emailed the one that taught me how to do contracts. I emailed another one of the dude. I don't want to say his name, but he was like he's a funny dude.
Hmm.
He's the type of guy where he'll help you, he'll say these things to help you out, but then like when it comes to pulling the trigger, he won't he's nowhere to be found, right?
Sure, sure.
So I emailed him too, and I emailed the broker that I joined, and that broker contacted me literally like 10 minutes right after. So I went to him, and I joined like literally that same day.
Yeah, I talk about this. We try to touch on it a little bit, right? Especially for people that are just getting their licenses or right in that studying period on how critical it is to get into a brokerage that's going to fit your aspirations and fit your skill sets and help you learn the way you need to learn, because you really do not learn how to do this job by taking the exam and doing all of that information. And I've had conversations with people where they've had a really difficult time transitioning into real estate, which is already a tough enough job to get into, right? Because they didn't have the right team. And especially like you're a good example of this, right? Because clearly you were broke when you got into real estate, right? I mean, so it wouldn't have benefited you to join a large brokerage where you would have had desk fees, where you would have had coaching fees, where you would have been spending $300 to $500 a month. Like that would have been crazy for you to get into something like that. So it sounds like you at least took that initial step to get into the right place for you, and you were learning the things that you needed to learn.
Yeah, dude. It's funny when I joined that broker too. When I went to him and I spoke to him, and it actually cost me $400 to join. And
Mm,
but he said that I'll get it back upon my first escrow, right?
sure.
Once that was my first deal, he'll give it back to me. So and then he showed me what he was able to train other people on. So there was this guy, and he was able to do 20 deals his first year.
Hmm.
And he was like, "Look, if you join this, you could be like that guy right there." He came out of nowhere. He joined my internship. And look at him now. A year later, he sold 20 homes. That could
Hmm.
be you. And the moment he said that to me, I was like, you know what? Sign me up. Like, I don't even care anymore. Just sign me up. You got something that no one has, and I want to learn exactly how you do things. And even to now, I'm grateful for that broker.
Hmm.
He was like my very first realtor mentor that was able to make, like made me hundreds and thousands of dollars because it was all thanks to him.
Yeah. So it worked. You did
Yeah, it
do the
worked. Yeah,
similar work
like
as that guy.
like it wasn't something where it's like you just join and just don't do shit, right? Because
Right.
a lot of these new guys or new people joining these brokers and whatever, like they have such a high ego that they think that if they join this broker, oh, they're gonna get all this stuff, all these technology stuff. Oh, they say that this company will give you this and this. Oh, I have a CRM, all that little BS stuff. But
Hmm.
then like they don't understand like those stuff are useful if you're experienced. Like if you've been
Hmm.
doing this for a while, yes, it is useful. But if you are literally fresh, like freshly no sales skills, like none of that stuff, and you don't know the fuck you're talking about, you should be with someone who could handheld your fucking ass.
Right.
Because selling real estate isn't that easy if you don't fucking know what you're doing. So a lot of these people that I interviewed too that possibly are considered joining my team as well. I don't bring on everybody too. But then, when I talk to them, you kind of get a feel of like who they are, like what they want. And, they talk about all these other brokers that, oh, they want this, they want that. And and you just see that, this person is a fucking dumbass because, you're already talking about all these technology stuff I do. You don't know how to sell real estate. You
Hmm.
should be focusing on how can I sell my first deal. That's like should be the most important thing in your fucking mind.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's extremely critical to get into the right place with people that understand. And the thing, and you're 100% right, right? A lot of the stuff that brokerages offer, they're tools to the foundation of doing well in this career. And if you don't learn how to do the foundation right, then that is a problem, and that's where people start to fail. And I think, and I don't necessarily want to cause any waves, but I think I see this a lot in EXP. I would love to have an EXP
Oh yeah.
realtor on here, but I see this a lot because they have amazing platforms. They have amazing back end technology. They even have a freaking VR space. I mean, they got it all. But their number one training thing for their realtors in the first 3 to 6 months is recruiting other realtors to join their brokerage. And every time I talk to them and, they're considering like coming over or whatever it is, I'm like, well, do you know how to get on the MLS? No. Well, do you know how to pull reports? No. Do you know how to do comps? No. Do you know how to do door knocking? Do you know how to do sales? Do you know how to do, do you know how to do anything? And they're like, I know how to ask people in my circle to come to meetings to be a realtor for EXP, right? So I use them because they're low hanging fruit because they're one of the largest growing in size brokerages in the country. So you're bound to have this. But I have another person that I know, they're at a brokerage and they're not really learning anything because the broker is kind of set and he's like, well, I'm already making my income. I've been doing this for so long. Right. And it's like, you kind of figure out how you're going to do it. And if you need help, let me know, and that doesn't work either. And so that's a good like example for our brokerage is we take mostly mid-tier realtors, right? People who've learned the foundation, who are doing at least 6 to 10 deals a year, who want to learn how to make this a career, right? We build career realtors. I personally will take on one realtor a year, maybe two, but probably one who's brand new, because you're right, it is so much work to take on a brand new realtor and train them correctly, right? And as a team, as you have in your own team, I mean, you've experienced this, haven't you?
Yeah, it's actually really hard. Like all of my realtors, well, not all of them, but like about most of them are all fresh. Like
Mm-hmm.
these are people that I've built from zero to making six figures now.
Mm-hmm.
And putting time into these guys are not fucking easy. Like you have to really, especially the ones that doesn't even know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
Those are like the hardest one where they don't know to say. They don't know like, oh, like what am I supposed to be saying? It's like those are the ones that are you have to really spend a lot of time with them.
Mm-hmm.
It is a lot of fucking headache. You know, you do get really upset because like the shit that they say sometimes is so dumb, whatever, right? But it is a lot of fucking time that you have to spend with these guys. So you are right. Like, you know, training new guys is a lot of fucking work, you know, and you kind of want some more veterans people because, you know, you don't have to do as much work, you know.
Sure.
So, but I do enjoy training new guys too. You know, I always feel like these are like my little babies, you know, like my
Yeah.
little minions, right? Because like you train them and they you know they become this person now, and you know you can see like you put such a huge impact on these guys that they went from their 9 to 5 job to making, I don't know, working for a job that makes them like $700 a month, to making, you know, 10,000 a month, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see that, it just makes me so happy that hey, like I've changed this person's life, you know.
Yeah, you have a true passion and desire to help people, right? Which I think is a defining quality in real estate in general. A lot of times people ask me like, yeah, it's the weirdest thing. Some like there's always this they allude to like the money you make in real estate, right? And I'm like, well, sometimes, yeah, sometimes you make good money, sometimes you don't. Depends what the market looks like. Depends on if my clients decide that they want to buy Taylor Swift tickets and not buy a house. I don't know, man. It's crazy out there, right? So, but you know, the capacity that I'm at our brokerage is I'm a VP, so I help build a lot of our back end systems to help people become a career realtor, right? And I don't have a real estate team. We have realtors that we bring on, and then I'm a loan officer and I partner with our realtors, right? But I very often take on that team capacity as the leader of like, hey, how do you write these contracts or how do you do whatever for brand new people, right? And I've pretty much decided for me to do the best job I possibly could at my career and help someone build their own career. It only may if they're brand new and they need help, I can only hold one hand at a time, right? We're all sinking, man. So okay, so you get into this place, you learn a lot. You got a couple people helping you out, but you don't stay there.
No, I didn't stay because so how I always see things is you are who you hang out with,
Mm,
and you know I stayed for long enough just to learn how to sell real estate. And after a while, I looked at, you know, I looked at the company and I was like, you know, I don't want to be like this person. I want to grow bigger, right? I
mm-hmm,
mean, he's a great mentor, you know, but he's more solo too,
mm,
and I don't want to do that. Like I want to build like a big brand, you
right.
know. So I started reaching out to other people. I wanted to learn about more different stuff, and you know, there wasn't much that he was able to teach me anymore.
Mm,
Um, Even till now, I'm still grateful for him, but when it comes to other stuff, you know, I have to go find it myself, you know. So I went with this new this bigger brokerage, and you know, that's when I started my journey. And you know, speaking of that too, I actually went with EXP,
yeah.
literally that as well
How
too.
was
And
that for you?
oh man, it was horrible. It was horrible, bro. You know, all these shit that they sell you. Oh, you know, like the main guy here in town,
Hmm.
he was making six figure or some $1 million every month. You
Yeah.
know, with these people, you know, they sell you on that little BS stuff. You know, and then like you could be just like him, right? Shit like that. You know,
Yeah.
and it's like, dude, like you know, being with EXP, you know, like it wasn't that ideal. You know, like the shit that you have to do, like you got to the every time you have a legal question, you anytime after 5 p.m. you're done. Like
Hmm.
you can't call anybody anymore, you know. And if you have a question, you have to go through the automation, to go through all of that shit, email a fucking broker to fucking answer back to. Like, dude, I need the fucking answer now. Like I
Yeah.
cannot wait till tomorrow. Like this fucking person is going through this, and I need the fucking answer right now, you know. So any broker that cannot give me the fucking answer now, like I'm like, new, that ain't for me, you know, because real estate isn't some of the things where like you get into these little issues and you could wait like a week to solve it. It's not like that, right?
Mm.
It's not like a fucking lawyer, you know. So when an issue happened, you need the answer now to fix that shit now before it gets worse, you know. So
Yeah,
I needed that.
sometimes it's really time critical, right? Well, our
Yeah.
most of our job is time critical because we give them contracts that say this is how much time we're going to get this done in, right? So it is 100%. I've heard this before that it can be really tough to get a hold of brokers there.
It
I,
is. It
yeah.
was really fucking tough, man. Like you couldn't even talk to anybody. It was that bad until maybe like the next day or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Yeah.
So
So I was
you went to
now.
EXP, but then you went somewhere else after that?
What's that?
So you were at EXP and then you went somewhere else after that?
Yeah, so I went with this other broker, which I stayed. This is I actually love these people.
Mm,
I say love them because I was after I left EXP, I joined a different broker, and it was like family.
hmm
It was like family there. Everybody treated I felt like I was at home. They helped me out a lot. It was like I learned the most from them. In my current level. But then I wanted to expand. And like they couldn't help me expand any further. Not just them specifically, but the company itself as well too. There was no way to build that commission structure that will work for you and like your own team
hmm
within being with them, right? So after that, I started reaching out to different brokers that was able to get me like an actual like I can build my team
hmm
without anyone bothering me. And I did one with a broker that was able to help me out, but then after a while they weren't really able to help me out anymore too, and that's why I came upon Cheetah Max.
hmm
So far, Cheetah Max has been promising everything they say that they would. They pick up every phone call. They coach me well. They're always there for me. And I just felt like this is like even though they're not physically there with me, they're like if I need to make a phone call, they'll pick up. They're
Sure.
not going to disregard me.
And how long have you been with them now?
About like I believe it was like 2-3 months.
Okay, so brand new, like really
Yeah,
new.
yeah, brand new. Yeah, yeah. So it
And
is
you
brand
did
new.
you and you have how many people are on your team?
There's a total 10 of us.
And did you like bring all 10 of these over from the
I
other
did.
brokerage?
Yeah. So I brought
Cool.
all of them. My team is I love my team. Like we're
hmm
all loyal to each other.
hmm
Like if and like I have dreams for these guys. I'm like the goal of having the team isn't to just fucking try to make some money. It's about
Right.
like the whole team making money together. Like I think
hmm
that's more powerful than just having you up here and you train everybody to sell real estate. I think that right there eventually it gets boring.
hmm
People will get bored of that. But dude, imagine if everybody invests together. Like how far can you go with like a fucking team that you can invest together?
Right. So the thing I like most about your story and what I'm hearing is I a lot of times come across realtors or hear stories about realtors who brokerage hop, right? And I've talked about this and I said, it's not really a great idea. I think you should try to find somewhere to be successful, right? Because most of the time, the reason they're doing that is because they suck at real estate. And they think that if I go to a different brokerage, they're going to give me more deals or whatever it is. And in reality, it's just that they don't want to spend the time learning how to do the job correctly, right? But that's not what I'm hearing from you. What I'm hearing is you were doing the job right. You just weren't getting the resources to grow at the capacity that you wanted. And I love that part of your story because that's where we hope everybody's going to be in this industry, right? They're like, I want to grow. I want to build a team. I want to help other people. I want to help, our consumers, but I also want to help our realtors. When we want to create career realtors who are doing a great job, being ethical in the field, right? We're building together. And I think in your scenario, to jump brokerages, to find somebody that can help you do that totally makes sense to me. And I think
Yeah,
that's
dude.
awesome.
It's like everybody has a journey. Wherever your journey leads you to, like, and every journey you have different groups of people.
hmm
And I feel like every time when you have a journey, like it's just like growing up. You grew up like you're in first grade. Second grade you have different people now. Third
hmm
grade you have different people now. Like it's never gonna be the same.
hmm
And if it's because you're always growing. Because like there are some like even like as an elementary kid, like there were some kids that were smarter than other kids. They get to put in a different class. So you're always growing, and you have to really be able to. If the people that you're with can't grow with you anymore,
hmm
eventually you are going to outgrow them, and you have to find someone that who can be on your level of growth. And
Sure.
you can't find that. You got better keep fucking finding it. Like
hmm
it is like the idea of like hopping brokers is a bad word, like a bad thing to do.
hmm
Like I me personally, I think I've hopped like 13 brokers
hmm
total 13 brokers, and yeah, it does look pretty fucking bad, but every time I hop a broker, I learned something from each broker, and I was able to pull all of those information, and now my team, I'm able to build exactly the way I want to build it.
Yeah, and I think the way that you're doing it, we've had this conversation at our brokerage about how franchising through brokerages is really tough now and opening your own brokerage is really tough because of the liability and cost overhead for it. And I think, it sounds like you're doing it effectively from a team capacity while keeping your license under a brokerage so you don't have to take on the liability and, well, a lot of the liability and the overhead for it while still doing exactly what you want in that capacity, right?
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's a
dude.
great
Like
way to do it.
yes, dude. Like I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be a broker. Like I passed the course to be a broker. Like I could go take my broker license, but I'm like the moment I was gonna go take out the dude, I don't want to do this. Like I cannot be doing this. I got to go find a broker that I could just hang my license under that
Hmm.
won't bother me when I'm doing my own things. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, no, it's tough and it's getting more and more expensive. And real estate is always in America, especially in California, it's always in the limelight. There's always something being said about it, and everybody. It's kind of it reminds me of social media and marketing because my background is in media and public relations, marketing, and brand design. And so it's kind of like that where it's like it's so in your face all the time. Everybody thinks they're an expert at it. And it's real estate's like that too. Every time I talk to somebody, somebody will like some snippet, some headline that they heard on the news or whatever, like, oh, rates are up. I wouldn't buy right now. Rates are up. And I'm like, and then they'll be talking for like 5 minutes and they'll be like, oh, well, Mac, you're in real estate. What do you think? And I'm like, well, I don't want to be, an ass and just say everything you said doesn't make sense. But so it's funny like that sort of stuff. But yeah, dude, I think the way that you're doing it makes a lot of sense. And so now you're here, you have your team, you guys are doing well, but I want to jump more into kind of your personal branding and things like that because we must have met pretty close to when you got your real estate license because we have a mutual friend and I met you at his house just by pure coincidence. And that was probably one of the last times maybe the last time we talked in person, but it must have been pretty close to when you got your license or was getting your license. And so I know your face, right? And we've talked a little bit in between, like on Instagram, but I've been following your videos because it's really interesting to me, people who can do brand development correctly in the real estate space. So when someone's doing it and I think it looks pretty good, I make sure I pay attention to what they're doing, right? So I was taking a look at your Instagram. You have about 690 posts, but your last about 70 posts are vastly improved and different from what you were doing previously. What you're doing previously is kind of what you'll see from everybody who's in the industry, who's kind of brand new to marketing or putting stuff on Instagram. And you've started to up it, and it looks a lot more what you're seeing on TikTok with, word overlay, better design, catching colors, zoom in and zoom out, those sort of things. So before we jump into the actual video that actually caught my attention, I said, I got to get this guy on the podcast. Tell me, how did you make that transition and how did you decide? When did you decide that like, okay, I need to start improving this part of what I'm doing?
Dude, it came from when so at some point in time, I moved to LA and I lived there for like a good couple of months. And then when I came back to Sacramento, I was just like, hey, like I think it's time I up my like my marketing, right? My
Mm-hmm.
social media marketing. So I started doing videos. It started off with just me doing like talking in front of the screen,
Mm-hmm.
and showing some houses right after me talking, right? And it was pretty fucking embarrassing. Like it's not really easy to do all these talking in front of a fucking camera, like
Mm-hmm.
like hey, like I'm over here doing this, whatever,
Right,
right? It's
right.
like that was really really embarrassing for me, but I knew that it was the right way to go because even before that too, I was coach for like I was in the Grant Cardone 8 weeks training as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he mentioned a lot of like hitting things hard, so then I started learning how to do those things, and then the first couple of videos was kind of like lame. I remember I wore a pink button up shirt
Mm-hmm.
just to give people attraction. Like hey, I was
Right.
like, hey, if we look square enough, people is gonna want to watch this,
Mm-hmm.
right? So then I started doing stuff like that, and then I started making funny TikTok videos because TikTok came out and it was pretty funny. So I started copying some TikTok videos, making it kind of funny, adding more friends into the videos, so it's not just about me only. And then I started doing more stuff like that. And then at some point, it got pretty funny. Like my community started laughing at my videos. They
Mm-hmm.
wanted more funny videos. So I started doing more funny videos. And after a while, I got tired of doing funny videos. And then I was like, hey, like I got to bump it up a little bit. So I came upon one of my videographer that time, and he was like, "Hey, why don't you get into these kind of stuff, right?" So he brought it up to me because I was kind of already doing it,
Hmm.
but I didn't do it the way he was saying it, and he helped me out. To do these videos, and then there and now I just started doing these videos. Like
Hmm.
it was like, hey, like talk in front of the camera, and I also follow like people like Ryan Pineda and Tash Nguyen, all that stuff too, and they do all their stuff, and I see Ryan Pineda, I like his videos, so I'm like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna do something very similar to that, and that's when all the zoom in and all that little caption, all that stuff came through.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing that now?
I believe it's like it could be 6 months now, I think.
Yeah, I
I
would say that
can't count.
sounds about right. No, it's funny.
Yeah.
I just did a podcast on Ryan Pineda, a solo podcast about how he dropped all 200 of his realtors so he can
Hmm.
make more money on marketing.
Oh yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
so I had a unique point on that, I thought, but his marketing is on point. He's very good at it. He does a great job. And so I think that's a probably good person to do it off. But it's funny because maybe the last like 20 of your posts, I'm not entirely sure. I didn't look super into it, but they remind me. I don't know if you know who Andrew Tate is.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they remind me a lot more of Andrew Tate. They're very kind of like, and I'm not trying to insult you, but they're like a little more arrogant. They're a little more like they ruffle your feathers. They really capture your attention. And I think that maybe that's what you're going for. Maybe you're trying to be like a little more controversial in the market, or at least like more in your face with like, this is what I believe. And like, this is like, if you don't believe it, it's fine, but this is what I believe. Is that kind of what you're going for?
Yeah, dude, after a while I got tired of trying to just be this behind the scene type of person, like all the time. I'm like, dude, like why are we realtors, or why are we held to this caliber? Was like we have to pretend to like be chill all the time, be cool about the shit people say to us. Like, dude, this is our fucking business. We can
Hmm.
fucking say whatever the fuck we want, like people like it or not. I don't really give a fuck, right?
Hmm.
Like all the cursing stuff, because like even when I was at the broker before this one, they would always tell me, "Hey, don't curse in your videos." I was like, "Dude, it's my videos. Like
Hmm.
people actually watch my stuff. Like I don't care what you say. Like
Hmm.
it's not professional. Don't curse, right? Shit like that. So I'm like, dude. Now I'm like, I'm a little bit fed up on those people telling me these things. Stuff like, I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want, right?
Hmm.
As long as I'm not I'm putting people like how do you say, like
Like
insulting
marginalizing
people.
anyone, or yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not doing anything like anything crazy out of like
Yeah.
nothing unethical. Like I should be fine, because
Yeah.
like I'm just telling people exactly how this real estate market is like, and how to really train people, or like even how to even do business in general.
Hmm.
So it's like but funny too. I actually got flagged in that video you're talking about.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did. I got flagged in that video. I guess a lot of people did flag me on that one. They
That's
they
not
still
cool.
gave they still let me post
Yeah.
it, but then the views didn't really count anymore.
Yeah.
But they did.
Bunch
I
of
did get
haters,
flagged on
man.
that one. Yeah, but I was like, what? I don't care. I'm gonna keep
Yeah.
going. Like if they're gonna flag me, fuck it. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep going until I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. There's an interesting thing about branding, right? Is business branding, like corporate branding and individualistic branding, which is a lot more prevalent now because of content creators, can be handled vastly differently, right? People want to see people that are authentic, but they don't want to see businesses like that, right? And Coca-Cola is a good example. Coca-Cola is the family household brand. They got and someone said Disney. They got Santa Claus. They have the polar bear, right? They have this wholesome kind of thing. So they can't have the CEO going out and doing press conferences and cussing, right? But you as an individual, most Americans probably cuss every once in a while, if not frequently. And so it resonates more, right, with people like that. Now, you do have kind of the argument where it's like, well, what if you do take off as someone like Ryan Panetta, you are going to get sponsor deals and things like that. And when you start to incorporate that sort of stuff, that general idea kind of dissipates, and it's like, well, you're less yourself now because you have to be more for these brands, right? So it kind of goes back and forth. But I think now where you're currently at in the like following you're trying to build, it totally makes sense. And I would never flag your videos, even though I was kind of like, well, I don't agree with that necessarily, but it's like, let him create his content, let him create the, thing. And the thing about your videos is you're not wrong. necessarily. It's the thing is you can be wrong, right? And that's I think the case with what anybody says. And we're gonna jump in to the video you make, and I'm gonna play devil's advocate because even though I do agree with you on pretty much the premise of what you're saying, I'm gonna use myself as an example because I am licensed in both. And so I wouldn't want your video to cost me a job, right? Because you said it. So we're gonna bring that video up and then we're gonna go ahead and play. So give me 1 second. All right, here it is.
You're trash if you're a loan officer and a realtor at the same time. The public that knows nothing will think that you're a king or queen. But in reality, we know that you fucking suck. You're not good at finding properties, you're not good at negotiating, you're not even good at doing loans. You're not good at either or, which makes you jack of all shits. Why do you suck at both? Because you don't have the ability to solely focus on one profession. Never let a loan officer negotiate a realtor deal. And never let a fucking realtor do your loans. And I'm probably going to get a lot of hate on this, but in reality, we know the truth. So you're trying to be the best at what you do, please focus on just one profession. Got something to say? Comment below.
So there it is. All right. That's the reason you're on the podcast. So we're going to dive into it. Again, I'm going to start as devil's advocate. I'm going to start as taking it from my perspective as somebody who is a bit seniored in the real estate and home loan market, who's licensed as both, right? So here's the scenario, right? You have an individual, myself, right? I grew up in foster care. I didn't have any money growing up. I didn't have anybody giving me. I wasn't a legacy realtor that gave me 20 deals for my parents, right? So I grew up. I went to college. I got a bachelor's degree. I went and got my master's in media and public relations. I did consulting work in brand development, things like that for a really long time. I had my own business for 5 years while I was doing other stuff, right? Working in nonprofits and things like that. I got my real estate license, did deals. I got my loan license, have done deals in that. And I helped build our brokerage as a VP working, kind of in this interior company. Now, I personally think that I'm in the top 1% of people in general when it comes to anything I've ever done. And I have numbers to back this. I have, things that have helped me exceed in life. But essentially what you said is if you see someone that has a real estate license and a loan license like myself, do not work with them. So is the assumption that because I have my real estate license and my loan license that I'm shit at my job?
So so that video is not going towards the people who owns the license, right? It's going toward the people that are trying to do the sales of being a loan officer and being a realtor at the same time. Like if you're over here, you're helping this person, let's say, buy a home, and you're also doing the loans for them, you're not as good on both because you don't understand. Like, I believe that loan officer doesn't understand the aspect of being a realtor, of how we negotiate, how we can get a lot of things for the clients, right? Because there's a lot of things that we can negotiate, such as either repairs, closing costs, or even price reduction, whatever. I think that right there, you have to really give that to the realtor to handle that aspect of how to get those things done. Though, with that being said, too, like on the lender side, if you're a realtor and you're also doing loans, I think you're not able to put all the numbers together to get them the least and lowest closing costs they can get, or even getting them the highest purchase price that they're able to buy. So I think if you're trying to do both, long term, like short term, yeah, it's dope. Short term, maybe the first year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, right? You can do that, and it's good. You make a good amount of money, whatever, right? But let's talk about 20 years from now. Are you going to keep doing that, or are you planning? Like, how do you plan on keeping to? Like, are you planning to do that for the rest of your life? So I'm speaking of the long term stuff. It was like, if I was also a loan officer, I would not be able to build my team, because now I'm focusing on how to do loans. I'm focusing on realtor stuff. And it's like, how could I build a real estate team if I'm over here? Part of my effort is going towards the loan as well too.
Sure.
So I think that right there, if you can't put those two together in regards to the making sales, recruiting, training, all that stuff, it's a whole different thing. But as a sales, like making sales, I don't think you're able to go far with those two like combined.
Okay. I think no. So let me touch first on the parts that I agree with you with. I think that most people who get into real estate already have a really tough time being good at real estate. That's a fact, right? I mean, there's a small percentage of people that can do this job effectively and make it a career, because you're right. There's so many things you need to know. And then to move up to that next level of having a brokerage or building a successful team takes an entirely new skill set, right? And so I agree with you on that. On the other side of the loan, it's the same sort of thing, right? There's a lot of work that goes into understanding how to do loans correctly. And especially when you're brand new, if you don't have very high volume and a very good mentor, you have to spend a ton of time learning how to do that job effectively. And if you did also do real estate, and let's say like yourself who has a team, you're not going to be able to dedicate the amount of time necessary to be able to do that. I agree with you 100%. That's why when I was getting my loan license, I had numerous conversations with my broker on how I was going to be able to do this. And I've done a podcast about this, so you guys can go back and listen to it. But I've talked about this. You cannot really do both, because the general idea is that if you're a loan officer, you are helping and feeding your realtors, and vice versa. They're feeding you. And if you're taking their real estate jobs, they're not going to really want to give you loan jobs, right? So it's kind of that balance that needs to be there. So technically now I'm a referral realtor. I refer deals to my realtors that I work with, and then I help coach them in anything that they need help with, because I understand how to do that job, right? I did sales for almost 15 years. I was very successful at it, and I've done real estate deals, and I've learned how to do all of the in and outs of that. And so, but I agree with you, right? Balancing that is extremely difficult. Now, I will say on the other side, you've never worked with me, right? So maybe the thing is you've just never worked with anybody at a high enough capacity that could do both, like myself. I can do real estate, and I can do the loans. In my first 2 years, and keep in mind, I don't work at like a large brokerage that does, where like Rocket Mortgage, where they give them 50 loans a month, right? Like I work at a small brokerage. I did almost 200 loans in my first year, or 200 loans in my first 2 years, right? So I learned how to do that. I learned how to do real estate. Now I'm able to manage both. But if I would have tried to do both of them at the same time, it would have been impossible, because I was spending 12 hours a day working on loans, right? So I 100% agree with you on that. And I think the point you're trying to get across is that most people, they're not going to be able to do both well. And if you, and it was funny at the very end, you say, like, don't let your loan officer do your real estate deal, and don't let your real estate deal. Legally, they can't, right, do that unless they're licensed in both. But I get your point, right? The one thing that I try to get across to, and I want to get your opinion on this, the one thing I try to work with my realtors on, and this is the reason initially I got my loan license, is because there's a huge gap in the entire real estate process with understanding how to qualify and know what your client's going to actually be able to afford. You have no clue what they're, and as much as a realtor will say, well, I know, no, you don't, because you can't pull their credit. You can't look at their credit reports. You can't, you don't know. We don't know. We can make pretty accurate guesses, but we don't know until we pull everything. We get all the mandated Freddie and Fannie paperwork, and we run the scenarios, and then we look at what's the market look like right now, and then we have a conversation with your realtor. And so that's why I was, as a realtor, I really didn't, it was an unsettling feeling to me to be able to have a conversation with my client and be like, I really don't know what you can qualify for. I don't even know if we should be looking and things like that. And I think that's why it's so important to have a loan partner, right? Because then you guys can have that conversation together. You don't need to get licensed. Just have a really good loan partner that you trust in, that you believe in, and that you guys can work hand in hand. So then as a realtor, you can be competent and say like, yeah, look, this is your pre-approval. We know, I talked to your loan officer, right? Whatever, right? So how do you guys handle that? Because like I said, as much as realtors try to say like, I know what I can get them in, I know they told me, I'm like, no, you don't, man. You don't know. So how do you guys handle that?
So we don't touch anything that the lender does, right? So because I have a real estate team. I don't have a loan office team, or whatever.
Mhm.
So anything that the lender does, we don't touch anything like that. We only know the basics of like credit score stuff, how much their payment is, like those stuff. Like you could kind of like give them like an estimate of
Yeah.
how much it is. Of course, we never tell them exactly what it is, because that's not our job to do that. That's the lender's job.
Yeah.
So we never touch the loan side. We only handle the real estate side. We do work along with the loan side, so we know what we can do for them. So if something comes up, I always tell the lenders that I work with, like, be as transparent as possible. Don't lie to me. Don't tell me that, don't give me these little, it could happen. Like,
Right.
there is no could happen. It's either can it happen or can not happen. Yes or no. I don't want to be in between that, because now I don't know how to say anything to my clients if you just give me this little BS answer, right?
Right.
So when we work with lenders, I teach my guys all the time, like, never settle on a maybe. Like, the answer got to be a yes or no. If it's a no, then get a yes answer maybe 2 or 3 days from now. But don't settle on a maybe answer, because that's how lawsuits happen.
Yeah.
We don't touch anything that the lender side does. If anything that we feel like we need to provide information to the clients, we go to the lender and we ask them for information. We express that to the clients. And if the clients want something specific, we refer them back to the lender. Hey, this person asked for this. Talk to them. Give them a call.
Yeah.
So
that's where I think it is beneficial to have both licenses, right? Because just like how you hated not being able to get a hold of your broker, and you were like, I don't want to wait. I want to know what's going on, right? That's the same way I felt about the loan. I'm like, I don't want to have to wait on. Now, granted, we always have had an in-house lender, but our broker or whatever, he gets busy as kids or whatever. And I'm like, I don't really want to wait. Like, I want to be able to answer these questions on my own. And so I think being able to do that legally and competently is, for me, extremely valuable right now. There's not very many people that carry both licenses. Most real estate brokerages won't let you do that. Most loan companies won't let you do that. So I think it eliminates a lot of issues that, you're concerned with. But, my realtors that I work with, they, now they kind of have to wait on me, right? And who knows, maybe I'm doing a podcast with you and now they have to wait an hour and a half or whatever, right? So I totally understand the place that you're in, but I definitely felt for me, it was a matter of competency and feeling like I could be the best asset to growing a brokerage as a whole. But I do agree that you can't do both. I mean, the only time I'll do both, and this is the only time I do real estate, is for family and friends. And they have to specifically say hey, I want to work with you. I only want to work with you. If they're like, hey, I just need help or whatever, I'm like, well, I have a great realtor that I can hook you up with, right? And I even have a couple people that are not in our brokerage that I partner with because, they're maybe not in the right areas. And I'm like, well, I want to be able to provide a realtor for you that I feel comfortable with in Merced or Modesto or the Bay Area or Tahoe, right? So I'm definitely there with you, but I just thought it was such a great video because I was like, people who have 2 licenses are gonna be like, screw this guy, and then people who have one or the other are gonna be like, I just thought it was funny, but I agree with you. It's just like most people, they can't handle one job, let alone 2 jobs, right? I mean, and then yours is like a third job of having a team of you got to be the motivator, you got to be the shoulder to cry on, you got to be the auditor to make sure that people are doing things right. That's a really tough situation to be in. But I do think that there's value, if you can get 2 licenses and you can work at a high capacity, there's definitely value with understanding how to do the real estate side effectively and how to do the loan side effectively, and understanding this, right? Because a good example that I give people is for Freddie and Fannie guidelines for asset statements, bank statements, right? A lot of people don't know this, but if you have more than 2 overdraw on your accounts in any given 3-month statement that's consecutive when you're submitting it, your file will automatically get declined, right? So I've had situations like this come up, which is you wouldn't know that. Even some lenders don't know that. So it's just unique underwriting guidelines that you can, especially if you seem like the type of person that's really aggressive in real estate and you want to get deals closed in 15 days, 21 days, you got to have a very competent loan officer that you feel comfortable with that's going to not turn off their phone at 5 o'clock in the evening, and who's going to give you a call back, and who's going to answer these questions you want, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that's so important that that's why like not to put these banks down, but you know like when I have clients working with banks, you know I'm always like, dude, like I don't like working with him. You know like a lot of time if my client is working with a bank, I don't even work with the client
Yeah.
because I'm like if you're gonna be working with the banks, they're gonna close down at 5 p.m. They're gonna stop picking your phone calls after 4 p.m. And I don't have the ability to reach out to them if something after 5 p.m. messes up. You know, so if you're gonna be working with a bank, it's either I refer you to my team or I refer you to someone else because I just don't have the ability to want to work with someone like that. You know, so it is important that the lender can, you know, like we build a relationship with the lender because I've always built a relationship with my lenders, and you know they know exactly how I work. So you know the worst thing that can happen between you and the lender is when when you're trying to negotiate. This is something where it happens before, like when you're trying to negotiate something and you need the lender to be on your side, and if the lender doesn't is not on your side, they're gonna sell you out. They're gonna toss you right under the fucking bus, and now you're on your own to negotiate, and that's when shit you won't get things done, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about. Like if you're a loan officer and a lender at the same time, I don't think you're able to negotiate well because you're focusing on the loan side, and you know you're trying to make sure that you don't get into any lawsuits on the loan side, you know. And if you have to focus on trying not to get into any lawsuits on the realtor side, I think long term your stress level wouldn't be able to work as well as you just focus just one thing, right? Because me being a realtor, you know, I focus on realtors only because if I have to focus on loans, like now half my time is split over there, and I'm not able to focus too much over there. And you know, I'm not gonna be able to negotiate for the best thing for my clients. You know, just when it comes to them either selling or buying a home, you know. So that's why like I'm saying like you know, it's so hard to just even do that. So when I build relationship with my lenders, like they need to know exactly how I work. Like, hey, I'm gonna do this, and this is what we're gonna do to get my client a price reduction, credit costs, whatever that I'm trying to get for them, right? And I need you to be on board. If you don't understand how I work, then this will be our last escrow together, you know? So I am very transparent with my lenders, and they have to really know how I work too. And a lot of times, you know, like they're fine, you know, because it's only the ones that I don't know that like I've never met them before. Like, so let's say if my client was to pull a lender from whoever lender they're working with, right? And I've never worked with them before. That's when things tend to be a little more difficult because that lender, a lot of the time, that lender will try to do my job for me by telling the client, oh, it's you can do this, this, and this. And it's like, you can't do that, right? As a realtor, like we can't even do that. Like that's not even part of our guidelines, you know, removing contingencies, all that stuff. Like we got to do it this way if you want your fucking money back. You know, we can't do it that way because the lender doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. You know, he thinks he does, but he doesn't know, you know? So I think that's when it comes to that, you know, what I was talking about in my video, that you can't be both because those things are just too much to handle.
Right.
You know?
Well, so a couple things. The first one, I agree with you, right? Like even if you're just like let's say you were a loan officer, then you get licensed as a realtor, that doesn't mean you're good at real estate, right? So there are going to be very few people that can do both effectively. And you're right? It's very possible for either side to overstep and be like, hey, we're going to do this. And I think about how you said like a seller credit, right? There's Freddie and Fannie guidelines to say that they can only be so much, right? And so there's definitely like steps on both sides where people can overstep and they can do things that they probably shouldn't do. And I think you're building relationships with people, and you're setting boundaries, and you're saying, hey, this is how we're going to do our job. This is how we hope you're going to do your job. And hopefully together we can close this deal. And ultimately that's the big thing, right? Is like, you can't close the deal without the lender, and they can't close the deal without you. So you guys better find a way to do it correctly, right? That's the big thing. And then I also, I wanted to talk about the banks. I've talked about this a little bit. Typically, the only time it's good to go with the bank is if you're like the very best qualified borrower, right? They're really the only ones. They want, AAA loans. They want the best of the best loans. And so that in itself is one reason why a realtor might work with them, just because we already know, hey, the likelihood of this loan not going through is very unlikely, right? But then on the other side, like you said, working with the lender at the bank can be really tough because typically they're not going to work weekends, or they're going to take probably 1 week, at least one weekend day off. They're not going to typically be available after 4 or 5. And they're probably not going to be available until 9 or 10 a.m. And they're going to take a lunch in the middle of the day, and they're going to feel obligated to, because they're, salary plus commission type of people or whatever. They're going to feel obligated to take their lunch and not take calls. And especially if they're a really seniored person, right? If they're younger, kind of like, you're still on that grind. You're like, oh, I'm going to pick up my phone, whatever. But if they're established, they might not be as like, they're like, oh, well, they can wait for me. I'll give them a call right after this burger or whatever. So, totally agree with you on that. I just have to say, I really like, we're getting at the end of this podcast. So I want to say, I really like the way that your branding is going overall. I think that it's, it's controversial sometimes, but it's catching. You're doing what needs to be done. So I applaud you for that. And I love to see people that are taking that initiative and taking this career seriously and doing the things that need to be done. So I would definitely say, I've never worked with you personally, but from what I've seen from the time that you've been in, the fact that you have people that trust you and you're working with the team and you understand kind of what's going on, I would definitely say, this is a person you should consider working with. Did you want to give everybody your social media links? That way they know where they could reach out to you at?
Oh yeah, if anybody's trying to reach out to me, my IG is at Duke Vanguard. My Facebook is Facebook/Duke Vang 27. Just feel free to reach me there, reach out to me, DM me, do whatever. I'm always available. I'm always on social media. So if anybody want to reach out, that's the best place to reach out to me.
And your team is Team Vanguard, right?
Yeah, Team Vanguard. We're transitioning over to we're in the process right now to get a new name, but Team Vanguard is the name that I came up with. Starting out the team.
Is it going to be Team Vang Bros? Is that what you're gonna go?
Vang Bros.
That's funny. Before we go, one last thing. I do want to thank you for being on, but there's an association that you're part of, and I think that's originally where I texted you about, because I'm part Samoan, and you're in I think it's like an Asian real estate association. What's the name of that?
Oh, you talking about like Aria?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's like American Asian real estate.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And I saw you post about it, and I was like, where's my invite, man? I was like, I'm Samoan, dude. I should be able to be there.
Dude, I've not been part of that association. I know a lot of people that are in it, but I'm not even part of it. I just get invited by these people sometimes, and I didn't even go to the last event. But I just know a lot of people that are in it because it's Asian people, especially here in town. We all know each other, so it's a small world here.
Yeah, my wife and I joke about that because she's Indian, and Indians are Asian by the very nature of where they live and their geography. And so, either way, man. Well, I appreciate you being on. I know you have a lot going on. And if you guys didn't know, this is our Thanksgiving podcast. Both of us, for some reason, we're like, yeah, it's a great idea. Let's do a podcast on Thanksgiving evening. Nobody will care about that. So thank you for taking the time, man. We appreciate being on. If you guys are looking for real estate in the local Sacramento area or surrounding areas, reach out to soon to be a different name, but Team Vanguard with Duke. He can help you out. And as always, this is the Hard Money Show, where we talk about real estate, home loans, and media. You guys have a great day, a great Thanksgiving, and some great holidays coming up.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much for bringing me on, and happy Thanksgiving, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you too.